Courage for Peace tells the story of Australian ambition, from the Treaty of Versailles and Prime Minister Hughes determined to seek a place for Australia in a new world, all the way through to Australian humanitarian efforts in our region. You'll see the emergence of Australian foreign policy and security policy. This is about Australians putting themselves in harm's way, doing the difficult, dirty, time-consuming work of nation building, everywhere from East Timor to Solomon Islands to Bougainville. And it really is the story of human endeavour, of well-intentioned people doing difficult things in dangerous places and doing them well.
This painting represents one of the key themes of the exhibition, which is that peace is in the national interest. Australia learnt the cost of war as a very young nation, losing 60,000 men in World War I. This painting shows the signing of the peace treaty to conclude the First World War. The then Prime Minister, Billy Hughes, decided that Australia needed to represent its own interests and not rely on Britain, and insisted at a place at the Paris Peace Conference that was negotiating the end of World War I. On the opposite wall is a painting by Papua New Guinean artist Simon Gende entitled APEC in the Pacific, and together these paintings show the tremendous journey that Australia has made in just over 100 years. Artist Simon Gende has depicted the world leaders gathering for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation in traditional Papua New Guinean tribal dress. In this exhibition, the painting represents Australia's journey from an outpost of Britain in the Pacific to a nation confident in its place geographically in the Asia-Pacific as a trusted middle power, influential in international affairs.
I think these are some of the most compelling objects in the exhibition. This bomb-shattered window and the Australian coat of arms were damaged during a terrorist attack at the Australian Embassy in Takata in December 2004. The Australian ambassador at the time, David Ritchie, has described what happened the day of the bombing. He said that the blast shook the building, caused the ceilings and the windows to fall in. And he talks about the bravery of those embassy staff who then, without regard to their own safety and the likelihood that a second bomb could possibly detonate, they went out to the site of the bombing and they assisted people with considerable injuries. And for their courage, they were actually all awarded the Group Bravery Citation.
Behind me is the T-shirt belonging to James Batley when he was Chief Negotiator of the Peace Monitoring Group on Bougainville. And I particularly like this T-shirt because it reminds me that James, like so many other Foreign Service officers, deployed repeatedly into harm's way. But also in the window behind me are things like Songs Belong Peace, the great Fred Smith, and how he was able to basically convince a fledgling nation to turn on the radio and understand developments in the peace process by song. So it's just a reminder that there are people who quietly go about their business, far from the watchful eye of the media and the crowd, but they do difficult jobs extremely well because they understand that diplomacy, particularly in the Pacific, is about people.
Some of the more confronting objects we have on display in the Courage for Peace are the real weapons confiscated in Somalia and the toys which were used to emulate them. These objects were collected by Australians in Somalia in 1993. Australians were serving as part of the UNITAF operation, which was to facilitate humanitarian aid in the troubled country. It's really significant for this exhibition to be able to display these types of weapons because the peacekeeping story is quite often so unknown or poorly understood by the wider public. Being able to show the various roles played by peacekeepers, such as collecting weapons and confiscating them in order to make a place better, is a key part of peacekeeping and one of the key themes we wanted to get across. And next to the showcase for Somalia, we also have the showcase for Rwanda, another African peacekeeping mission for Australia of the time, this one where we served largely in a medical role. This flag, which flew above Kigali Central Hospital, is a powerful symbol of the medical role they played and the many lives they were able to save. To be able to serve under this flag in Rwanda is incredibly important for so many Australians. Australia had an infantry company, logistics and a large medical component in its mission in Rwanda. So to be able to serve under that flag and help out so many people after such a terrible genocide is really powerful. And it's really important for us to be able to show the good work that Australia can do as part of peacekeeping operations.
The 2004 Indian Ocean, or the Boxing Day tsunami, is one of the most harrowing and tragic events in recent memory. Australia mounted a huge humanitarian relief effort. Led by DFAT, we also deployed the ADF and the AFP. These decorative wall panels were recovered from the Sofitel Magic Lagoon Hotel in a popular tourist district in Phuket. They were recovered by Australian Federal Police, DVI or disaster victim identification experts who had travelled to Thailand to help identify the deceased.
Courage for Peace tells the story of whole of government endeavour. The War Memorial rightly concentrates on the work of the Australian Defence Forces over successive generations, but some of the work that's represented here involves whole of government. It shows you that we need the military muscle of the Australian Defence Force often to go into somewhere, but the difficult work, the multi-generational work of nation building after a conflict involves police, it involves diplomats, it involves development workers, it involves election assistance people, and it just shows that often a country can fall in a matter of days, but it takes years of sustained effort and human capital to rebuild it.